In this video, we're going to focus on how we can customize our tooltip here. This is just our own custom tooltip, and you notice that if you move over it, we're not able to hover on the tooltip. It's just our own version of it. And secondly, we also make it so that it will be able to support multiple datasets. As you can see in here, we're building multiple things, and of course the colors can be adjusted to make it more visible. Anyway, let's start to look how we can create this custom tooltip. So let's start to explore how to create a custom shape tooltip for multiple datasets in chart.js. So the first thing what we need is we need to get our default data. So what I want to do is I want to go to chartjs3.com, getting started, and this link you can also find in the description box. Scroll down and then just copy this chunk of code here. And if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here. It explains it all. So then what I will do is in here I will just paste it all, and then I will just change the title here. Save that. There we are. So now we have this here, and what we want to do now is we want to convert this into a line chart. So I'm going to add up here 3 different data sets. And creating a custom tooltip with multiple data sets can be quite tricky because you have to consider many things. So I'm going to make here this. Alright, so we have this, and we give them proper names. So the first one would be red line. And the red line will have this one here, and I'm going to remove the bracket. You don't have to remove the bracket, but I'm going to recommend you to do that because if you don't do that, you must have a different structure in it, and that structure might be a pitfall later on. So if you just follow along with me, it will be probably better. So there we have it. We have this one. I'm going to remove the border width. And next one here, this will be the blue line. The blue line, alright, and the blue line is this one here. I'm going to remove as well all the brackets, make sure you have the commas there. And then here, for this one, and then here this, of course, a solid color. Final one, this can be the green line. And the green line will be the 4th value here. Cut that out, paste that in there, and do this one here. Alright, so now we have this here border width. Let's adjust that one, and then what I want to do here, I want to change some of these values here. Let's make it 9, and let's make this 3, and then here 6, and then another 6, 9, that's fine. And then we have here 18, and this should be 12, and here we have, well, 9 is fine as well. So here I'll just make this 9, and I'll just make this solid 9. And what I really want here is that we have a few numbers or items that will cross each other or intersect on each other, but they will be on the same point. And there's a reason for that, because it requires a certain way of thinking. So I'm going to save that, and what I mean by thinking is in the structure itself. So what I'm going to do here, line, save that, refresh, there we are. So what I mean by thinking is when you have this here, you can see here we have your multiple items together. It requires a different way of building the tooltip, and that is a tricky one, but I'm going to cover that specifically here. This is the reason why the tooltip with multiple datasets is more advanced than if you only have a single dataset. So what we're going to do here now, we have the options, comma. I'm going to make a plugin now because we're now ready for the item, and let's call this our custom tooltip, or like that, custom tooltip plugin or custom tooltip. So here I will say this will be our plugin block. And then here, constant custom tooltip equals, and then we can say here, ID custom tooltip. This is really not necessary, so I will skip the explanation for this. If you really want to understand it, watch my other videos about how to make plugins, so you will understand it all. So here, what we're going to do here is we're going to select the drawing time. The drawing time here, remember, if you look at the tooltip here, what happens, the tooltip overlaps everything else. So this is basically being drawn at the very last moment, making sure it will be at the very, very top. So what I want to do then, of course, is for our custom tooltip having the same feature. So what we need to do here is, as drawing time, I'm going to say after draw. And what this really does is the following. It will first draw the entire chart, and after that is done, it will draw our custom tooltip. So in here, I'm going to put in chart. This is an object, and then we have another one is argument and options. Again, I will skip explaining these two, and if you want to know, watch my other videos regarding to plugins. So what I want to do here now is what we call an object destructuring. And object destructuring is very important to understand. Is basically we have an object. These are all three objects, but this object here consists of certain values. And what I really want to do is I want to break them apart so I can use shorthands. And shorthands is just a shortcut. Other word for shorthand is shortcut. So let's do here a console chart just to show you what I'm talking about. So you can see here we have all this, and then you get here a lot of items. And what we really need here is basically the CTX, which is the rendering of the canvas. It will be very important. And we need the, let's search, where are you? The chart area. There you are. As you can see here with the chart area, we have certain other objects, right and left. And normally, for example, if I would get this, I need to do a console log. I would say chart area dot left with object destructuring. Normally, instead of saying chart area dot and then left, we can just say now the following. We're going to say a constant, curly braces, and then we say a chart. So we're going to say this is the object. And what we want to do is we want to split that object out. So instead of using this, I want to say now, I want to be able to get in there. So first of all, I want the CTX, but also I want to have here the chart area. And then here, curly braces, and, curly brackets. Or sorry, it's curly braces. And then what we want to do here is we say left and right. So what really happens now is now instead of doing this, I can also do the following here down. I have to do it here down because that's when we assign that. You can now say just only left. And if I save this and refresh, you can see here the values here 6 and 8, or sorry, 76 and 78 shows the same value. Well, here is just shorthand. And this one is a full namespace and path. So this is just a shorter way, a more professional way of writing. Being more concise is considered a better way to do it. So that's what we're doing here, object destructuring. So what I want to do now is, now we have these two, and I need the left and the right, because the left and the right are referring to this line here and that line here, which are the pixel coordinates. So that will be very important. So the next thing what I want here is eventually I want to say a ctx.save. And then what I'm going to do here now is we're going to work on the first thing. And then I guess the most important one is, because we need to build here an if statement. So let me show you what I'm talking about. What we need here is the following. Let's do a console log. And what I need to do is I need to see, because we're like in Hoover effect. That would mean that if you're on this point radius, at that moment it should trigger the Hoover. So that would mean that now we need to make sure that we can duplicate something like that, where we can say we are now on the Hoover effect, and on this specific shape show the matching data. So that's what we're going to do here. So what we want to do here is the following. I'm going to say here chart.tooltip tooltip dot, well, you just do it like this. If I refresh here, we have this here. And then what I need here is a very, very specific item. If I scroll down here, you will see here somewhere the underscore active. And the underscore active will show you nothing unless we are hovering on a specific item. And it will be triggered, but it's hard to see here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do this, save, refresh. Alright, so now if I do this and I hover here, you can see here, this works, and then we get all of this information here. So you might say, hold on, we just talked about object destructuring, can we do this as well? Answer is yes. We could do here, for example, comma, and then we can say your tooltip as well. I guess we can put this one in there as well. Then we could just say your tooltip, and then we just put in the active here individually. Alright, there we are. So we hover, we get 3 items here. This is very important now, because if you only have one data set, then my other video is perfect for that. But if you have multiple data sets and they're not crossing each other or intersecting, you will have a struggle in getting all the data in a tooltip unless you know what you're doing. So that's what we're going to do here. So what I want to do is the following. I want to make this, because this here eventually is, I don't want to, if I hover over this, it will show you stuff. Let's refresh. You can see first it shows blank. Then if you're on here, and then if you show this here, it will show item, and then a move away, it will show blank again. This blank is an issue. I don't want to show this blank because we don't need this. All I need to know is, are we on top of an item, yes or no? And we can see it by checking here the length. The length here, and it shows here as well data index, or the data set index, and the index. And here even the elements with the X and Y coordinates where normally the tooltip is located, as you can see here. So all the information is in here. But what we need to do is an if statement, because if I only do it like this, console log, save this will work. But later on, if I want to extract a certain value, for example, I want to extract the index here, index number 4. If I save this, refresh, you can see now it gives an error. The reason why is, once we don't hover on any of these items, it is not active. So we cannot get the index here. So chartjs says sorry, or the console log says, I'm terribly sorry, I cannot give you anything because there is nothing, which is correct. It indicates here, can I read property of undefined? Alright, how do we solve this? Simply making an if statement here. And what we can do here is the following. We have, well, we can do it in here, or we can do it just after here. Say if, and all I want to do here, if tooltip, you can just grab this, put this in here, but I don't want to have that. All I say is this, if tooltip has any length, and by length 0 would indicate if there would be one item already in there. In that case, do something. So then I'm going to show you here. We have this. Now, and if I move this one in there, put that in there, and then of course here, we can say save this. There we are. Or we can even put, maybe it would even make more sense. If the item is true, we can just do the entire, all the functionalities should be in there. And if it's not true, we don't even have to load anything at all. It will save us some space and energy of, or memory of JavaScript. Alright, so we have here, alright, we get a reference errors, fair enough. Let's see what's going on here. Alright, of course this is not allowed, so this is an issue here. We can move this up, or what we can do is we can just put the original space here, which is basically from the chart. Remember, the chart would be the first item. So if I save this, now refresh, there we are. Now it works again nicely. And you can see here now, we're able to extract the specific value here. So let's start to extract all the values that we now need, because now we have this all working. What I want to show you at least here is if it's active, we have to have, right now we have the index, but let's look at what we have more, because it will make sense what we will have here. So let's save that, refresh. Let's hover over an item, and you can see here, this is the most important one. We have the dataset index, and we get here also the data for the index itself. And what is very important, as you can see here, depending on what you are hovering on, you will see the different index number. And if I scroll down here, you eventually see here 0, you can see here 1, and then after it goes to 2. Alright, so this is very important, because what I really need is basically the following here. I need the dataset index, I need the index itself, and we need the x and y coordinates. So what we're going to do here, to do this, because now we have multiple datasets, we need to work with what we call a for loop, because we have a lot of information here, and we cannot assign only one, because it will override itself. So what we're going to do here is create a for loop. So I'm saying here for loop, and with a for loop, basically we're going in an array. Sorry, not a for loop, a for each. It's a for each loop. And what we're really doing is we're going into the array and then or into the object and extract these specific items we want from each. And what we really want is basically I want to grab from each item these three things, or these two here, and the index and the dataset index and the index. Alright. So what we're going to do here. So we're going to say here we can get here the tooltip and then dot underscore active. We're going to do active and not even active 0, no, because that will indicate only one single item. What I want to do here now, I want to have every one of them, and then I say here for each, and the for each will now be looping through the array itself. And you will, if you want to understand what I'm really doing here, just look at this. Let me just show you this so you will understand it. And I can just remove this, we don't need that. Console log. And then here, save that, refresh, then there. If I go on this, you will see, there you are, we get 3 items. These 3 items are here. If you're on here, you only get 1, I guess. Am I correct? There you are. So you can see it. This is very important because here we have a special condition, meaning we need to loop it 3 times. And that's the for each loop. In the for each loop, we're going to loop through all of this data. Alright, so now you have the understanding of that one that we're doing. It's time to start working on our for each loop. So let's do that. Let's remove this. And then what I want here is the following. In the for each, I'm going to say here, let's call tooltip item and index. And the tooltip item is basically just this as a shorthand. I'm referring to this here now. So this is very important. There's nothing fancy in here. Alright. So once we have that, what I'm going to say here is the following. I'm going to say here, what I need is the data index. We have the data index. We just need data. What we also need is the let's call the data set index. So let's get those two first. And basically you already figured out how we get them. It's basically in here. Now you just grab this one. But all we have to do here is this tooltip, because this will be already our shorthand reference for this. Put it in here, and then here I'll just say dot index data. Is that the data index? No, sorry, that's not the index. This is the index. There we are. So now we have another one exactly the same, but then specifically for the dataset index. Once we did this, we have this now, and if I would do now a console log, you will understand exactly how it will look like. It will look through it 3 times on all of these items if there are 3 items in there. So save that, refresh. So this is why we have these here. It should only look twice. Alright, dataset before initialization. Alright, so let me double check what's going on here. Alright, so we cannot show this yet, of course. That's alright. So we'll just hold on, I'll just check. Alright, sorry, I'm just making a mistake here. Alright, you can see here, this of course is true. What is it saying? Dataset index equals dataset index. Sorry, forgive me about that. That's of course not the correct way to do it. And what was the official term? Let's refresh this. I was thinking, what am I doing wrong? But no, nothing. Alright, so probably here, this should be the data set index. Am I correct? There we are. 0, 3, 0, 3, 1, 3, 2. Alright, that's correct because we have 3 data sets. And this is here, Thursday is index number 3. Because in JavaScript, the arrays are calculated by 0, so 0-based calculation. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. Alright. So now you have the understanding of that as well. So now what we want to do here is the next item is of course getting the x and y coordinates. So we're going to say here the x point equals, and we're going to get here as well let for the y point. If you're wondering why I'm using let, because we're looping through these values. Using constant is probably not a good practice if you're looping through these, because you're overriding them. Although it doesn't matter so much, but I guess this is a better practice. So what I want to do here is the following. I want to get here, again, the item. Since we have nothing yet here, let's go here and put this tooltip item back. Save that and refresh. Alright, so if I hover over one, you will get all of this information, but look where we need to go. Go into element, and in the elements we have the x and y coordinates. And that is exactly where the tooltip points. You can see this triangle is what we call caret. And carrots you spelled like this. Caret. Alright, so that's the triangle, and the triangle peak point where it points to, which is the caret pointing, that is basically the x and y coordinates, and that's what we need. So I'm going to grab this one here, this x, how do we get that? Dot element dot x, that's number 1. So I'm going to copy this, and then for the y point, we do exactly the same except for the y item. Alright, so now we have the exact coordinates. So then we have here this, I guess we can just say here, what's the right term for this? We can say here the coordinates. And what I want to do next is, well, what is very useful as well is to get the colors. So what I want to do now is I want to get certain colors here. And what are the colors? Well, basically the colors would be all of these colors here. Of course, we will not spend time on making a square color. I would not even care about that for now. What would be more practical for me right now is just to make a simple, I guess, the font in a color. And eventually I will make a different video where we go more deeper into customizing the tooltip. However, this one is just a basic understanding of customizing a tooltip without too much extra bells and whistles, basically. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is the following. Get the colors, and here this is very important. But basically we're getting index 0 or just colors, no index. or basically no index, I mean no array. So if you're wondering what does this mean, let's go up here. This is why I was referring to it. We are not going to use brackets here. Are we going to use brackets? If you're using brackets, you're going to put in an array, so you need to have an array index. But in our case, I removed that, and I assume that everything is just a line, same color, and this is just straight up the same color. And chart.js built it very nicely, where they have this two option where it can read if it's a array or is it just a value that they declared. Absolutely brilliant. So what we're going to do is we have to, sadly enough, hard code, or not really hard code, we have to select one of the options. So I will not make an if statement on if one or the other. So that's the only thing that you have to consider here for a line chart. So what I'm going to do here now is the following. I'm going to say here, well, this is what we call basically our data set meta. And what is really our data set meta? It will be the following. Well, what we can do here is, let's comment this out for now, do a console log, and then in our console log, what we want to do now is say chart dot, and this is get data set meta, and then here we're going to ask ourselves what we want. Well, if we already do this, we need to be specific with which data set we want. And because we're going to do a for loop, or for each loop, you can copy this data set here, put it in here. Alright, so once we do this, save that, refresh, hover over one. Now we only get one single item here. And what we can find here is basically all the information. But what we need is specifically here in the dataset meta, or at least in the underscore dataset. Let's see where we are. Underscore dataset. There you are. Background color, which is the specific background color of that dataset. And this is beautiful. So let's copy this dataset and then say background color. So what I want to do here then, to avoid a too long code, let's use this shorthand here. Then we're going to say here, we can say a constant, or maybe let as well, border color. And we have another one here, let pg color equal. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that this works, comment out this one, and then we're going to grab here this data set, because that is basically this, and then we just say here, how do you get there? We have that, and then we can say here data sets dot dataset, and then dot background color or border color. I guess that was the border, that's supposed to be border color. So let's type your border color, copy this, put it in there, and say here background color. Alright, so once we do this, we can do a console log. And then we can say here, let's show the value be color. Save that, refresh, hover over this, and now you can see you get all the colors here. If I hover over the single one, we only get one color, and it loops through this because of this animation here. Alright, so this works. So we're getting close to it now. So once we have this, I guess what is now very important is starting to have at least something drawn. So what I want to do now is we have all the basics, and now it's time to continue on with the item to be drawn, so we have something visual. So to do this, what I'm going to do here now is to start drawing something. But to make that, what I'm going to do, let me explain. I'm going to make a line, basically a line. If you hover over it, instead of here, I want to make a line going up, and here we're going to make a square. So this is very important, and for that, what I'm going to do here is what we call a connector line. So I'm going to make a function out of it. So this is a function, and I'll call this function the connector line. And then with this connector line, we're going to do the following. I'm going to start drawing based on the x and y coordinates. So I'm going to say a CTX, and CTX stands for the canvas element to draw. Remember that. I think I showed you already here when we were on this one here. So I'm going to say now here CTX, then we're going to say begin path. And begin path basically says we're going to draw something, erase any connection, if ever there would be any connection with any other shape, erase the connection so the lines will not be connected somewhere else. So start fresh, and then we're going to say here CTX dot line width. So I'm going to make a line width, and the line width can be 1 pixel. And then what I will say here, CTX dot stroke style, which would basically mean the border color. So the border color will be, in this case, black. I don't want to In my other video, I show you nicely how you can make these colors dependent, but of course here, we should only have one color, which is a default color. Why? If you have these 3 items, what will happen is basically, it will only have one color to select. It will be the red one, and the blue and the green going to work. And of course, so that would be not practical. So it would be more clever to have black here, and then just a font, whatever font is, should be in the color of that related data set. That's what we're going to do here. So that's why we have this black. Then enter, and then we're going to say here, starting point. Move to. So we're going to say, all right, where are we going to move to? What is the starting point of a drawing? Well, in this case, we have the X and Y point here. That's our starting point. Whenever we hover on, that specific point will be the item. And then what I want to do is I want to have 10 pixel line going up. So what we need to do then here is the following. I'm going to say a ctx.line 2, and this line 2 is the following. I'm going to say here, I want to maintain on the same place because we're not going to left or right, no, but I want to go up. And up would mean the Y point must be deducted. And Y deducted, we're going to say minus 10 pixels. What happens then, it goes up with 10 pixels. Why? The very top is considered 0 pixels, and the very bottom will be considered the full height of the canvas. How big is the canvas? 700 in width, and the height is 350. So once we're at the bottom, it's 350. Once we're on the top, it's 0. So very important. So if you want to go up, you need to go up 10 pixels. And that's what we're doing here. Alright, so once we have this semicolon here, and then we're going to say here, ctx.stroke to draw the item. And then finally we say ctx.restore. Restore would mean to delete anything or remove anything that would be saved in here for if ever we should draw any other shapes. So if I save this now, refresh, and if I move over here, alright, you say, hold on, I see nothing. And that's true. Why? We only created the function. We didn't set yet to draw the item. So what I want to do now, of course, is to say, alright, let's say draw this specific item. So to draw this, I'm going to say here, very simple, connector line. Here, connector line activated. Alright, save that, refresh, and now if you have this, and there we are. So you can see here, it starts to work. And of course, we're not done. And you might wonder, why are we doing like this? Well, I'm going to show you later on, because we remember we still are working in a for loop. And that means that we have basically a loop where we're working in, and we want to avoid that we have too many of the same things being drawn. And I'm going to show you later on, you will understand later on, because if not, it will be drawn multiple times. So what I need to do is the following now. So now we have this. What I want to do next is the rectangle. So let's make here a semicolon, and then we're going to say a function. Here, this will be our, well, our rectangle shape. So we say here rectangle. And make sure you spell it correctly. And here, another function. And in this function, what we're going to do here is almost similar. We can just copy this item here. We're going to have this because we want the same color and the same width of the border. And then we're going to say a ctx.fill_style, which would be basically the background color. And our background color in this case, I'll just get a default that chartjs uses, which is RGBA. And then we're going to say 0, 0, 0, 0.8. Alright, so that means 80% visibility, 20% transparency on the alpha value. Alright, so once we have this, what I want to do now is to start drawing the item, or specifically the square. So I'm going to say here the following. I'm going to say here ctx, and then we say here fill_rect. And fill_rect does the following. We need to now indicate what is our starting point, our starting x, and our starting y. And then secondly, we need to figure out how many pixels in width and how many pixels in height would we like to draw it. So this we need to still build on based on the formula and based on, of course, the text. If we have longer text, we need to have this dynamic. So we're going to work on that, so don't worry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab this x and y here, put it in there, and then what I want to do here is for the width. Well, what we can do now, just very simple. I'm going to say here, well, just think like this. we have this here. Remember, we are on an X and Y point. That would mean we are here, and what we would like to do is eventually we need to go like this back and forth. Alright, so basically our starting point here should be, I guess, a few pixels back here, maybe 20 pixels going back. So we can do here 20 pixels, or else the starting point would be just like this on this line here, and will be just from there on. So we don't want that. We want to go a little bit back so it's in the center. Secondly, remember we have here this height. This Y point is the connector line, but we don't want to be on the connector or together with the connector line. We want to be on top of the connector line. So we say here also -10. And let's do here for now 40 pixels in width and 20 pixels in height. So if I save this, most likely we need to do here -20. But let's save this and refresh. As you can see here now, oh, what's the issue here? It's very simple. We forgot to indicate here the function. So semicolon, save, refresh. Alright, you can see here, look at our position, it's an absolute mess because this must be negative. So if I save this, refresh, there you are. So, and you might notice here, our color is maybe, especially here, our color is very, very dark, while here it is slightly lighter. Why is this? Well, the answer is simple. Remember, we have 3 items here. So what happens here is loops 3 times on top of each other, and this is creating this extremely dark, different color compared to the others here. This one not, but this one here will be darker than that one, and this one is basically solid black. So what we need to do here is to create an intelligent feature that will say we only want to draw it once. So we're going to do that, and this is the reason why I created these functions here. So we will later on have only these functions with a simple if statement. So we're going to work on it. So how will we do that? Well, basically we can move these 2 functions. We can even move it here above. So that's very nice. So move it here up. But then here I want to say the following. Remember we have this for each loop here. Remember the index here. We haven't used this yet, or I haven't used it much. This index is not this index. Don't get mistaken. This index is basically index of the tooltip item here. This is very important to understand. So what I want to do here is just say an if statement, and I will just say in the following in the if statement. If this index equals 0, in that case, we're going to put in these 2 items in there. And I will say here, I'll just say here, let's put it here, up, draw tooltip once only. So if I save this now and refresh, now we move over it, alright, now we move over this. You can see here now, it's not that dark anymore, and here as well. Not anymore that dark compared to previously, because it's now very light, and maybe we can even, if we do it in a lighter version, we could be able to see the difference. Let's make this 0.3. Alright, so now, same. As you can see here, it's very, very clear that it's only once. Alright. So now we have that done. We have solved one of the issues with creating a new logic in here, and chartjs does that automatically. Anyway, so now we have that. What we want to do now, because we're getting close to what we need, and what I want now is, well, 2 things. First of all, here I realize what we're missing here is a solid border that is equal, that surrounds it here. So let's do that one first. We have here the rect fill, and then what we can do here, the same logic here, semicolon, put in there, semicolon as well. We will just say here StrokeRect, which basically means to draw just only the lines itself. That's why we have the stroke style here indicating black, and then the background color would be this. So this is the border color, this is the background color. Save that, refresh. Move over there. Alright, and are we able to see something? I know that it's very hard to spot, and how we could spot it easily is to give it probably a lighter color. Save that, refresh. There you are. Beautiful. So now you can see it nicely. Alright, so now it's time to remove this tooltip. I find the tooltip very distracting. So I'm going to put in here plugins. Then I'm going to say a tooltip. Then I'm going to say enable. And this enable equals, oh sorry, not like that. Enabled is already good. We say here false. Enabled false. No need to use curly braces. Comma here, save that, refresh. Alright, now we have our own custom tooltip. Of course, with this tooltip, we need to make sure we're on this point, and if we move away from it, it will automatically disappear. Anyway, now we have this, and it starts to look quite nice. But we have an issue here. Look at this. We're drawing only once, but what is the problem here? We have only space for one chunk of text. But here we have two texts, and here we should have three. So that would mean that this tooltip must be bigger. So we have to build a logic for that again, or as well. So let's start to continue on now. So now we have this here, we have the connector line, and what we can do here is start to check where can we build the logic. And what we can do here is the following. Let's see, in this rectangle, basically we need to be in this rectangle here. And what I want to do here in the rectangle, we have to check, let's see. Alright, so let's see here, for our rectangle, what we need to do here is basically we have this so-called height here, or this is the height that we need to calculate. But what I need to do here, I need to make this dynamic. And with dynamic, we need to really check the following. How do we do this? Well, luckily we have what we call the item here. And all we need to do here is to get the length of this specific item. So remember this. This here is for each. And basically the tooltip item here. And what is very important here is basically the length of it. Why? Remember, if we hover over it here, it will recognize 3 items. And that, if we have the length, I guess the tooltip doesn't show this nicely. So let's do this one here, or let's do a console log. And all I want to do is this. I want to say this length dot active dot length. Save that, refresh. We have here, it's only one again, and then here we have 3. Beautiful. So what I want to do here, this is basically the information I need. I want to remove this, and what I will do here is, you can see here the duplication of -20. So all I need to do is basically, I want to say here the length multiply by 20, or multiply by -20, meaning if we have 3 items, we're going up, instead of 20, no, we're going up 60 pixels. And this is as well very important. Negative, save, refresh. So now if I have this, move over, oh, look at that, there you are. Here we only have 2, beautiful. Here we have 3, alright. So you can see here this is a very tricky item to solve. Right now I don't have the answer for this, but I have another alternative to solve this for now. And I might eventually make a special if statement and condition to figure out this, because this is a very complicated matter to solve. Anyway, we have this one here now. So what we want to do here now is, well, we have our everything ready, and I guess now it's time to get our text, because we have this now, everything is properly done. So what are we going to do here is to prepare the text. All I need is the following here. So maybe we can just do it here up. Say here, prepare text. And what I want to do from the text here is the following. First of all, I need to know specifically where we can find the text. So we're going to get this tooltip item here. And of course, console log. Put in here, save that, refresh. Hover over an item, click on that, and let's see what we can find here. If we go into elements here, and then we go to context, what we will get here is, well, we get the index number, etc., etc., but we get also here the raw 12. What the raw 12 is basically the Y value. And the Y value for this item is basically Friday, if I'm not mistaken, and then that should be 12. Here, that's the red one here. Alright, that is what I need. So I'm going to get this raw. So how do we get this? From element dot $context, and then here to raw. As you can see here, this is the full namespace path. Alright, so let's follow that. So we say dot element dot $context dot raw. So once we have that, refresh. There we are, 18. If we go in here, we have 9. Alright, but we got multiple 9, so basically they're all 9, so that's fine. So that's our text here. That's the first one. Nice. So the next thing what I need is not only the text, but I need, maybe we want to have the title as well. So what I'm going to do here, well, first of all, this. Say here, constant, and this will be the number text. That's just the number or the data itself. And yeah, we should give here let. Oh, maybe better. Next one is then the let Now I'll say this will be the title text. So how do we get this one here? Now the title text, we have to search slightly different. So what we need to do here is we're going to go into this one here. Let's do a console log again here and explore the data set meta. Refresh, hover over it, click on one of these items, and then in here, what we're going to do here is basically we go in the I scale, alright? And then in the I scale, we have to look for label here. Letter L, label rotation. Oh, do we have that? No. Let's search. What's the official term? And maybe it's not in the I scale, sorry. It's in the label itself. Do we have an L? The label? No. Let's see, maybe it is in the data set. There is it. The data set. Let me just check quickly. Sorry, for some reason I am trying to search it, but I see it here eventually. It's the label itself. I don't know how I figured out to miss that one, but there we are. What this really is not even the label. I think label is really a wrong term here. And what it really is basically the data set name, or basically the title of it. So it can be label, but eventually what we want is we can have this one, or we want this one here down. So it's one or the other, whatever you want to show. Doesn't matter so much. But I'm just going to grab them, both. And we're just going to put one of them. Data set, where is the data set meta dot this. Alright, so that's the title text. Save that, refresh, hover over it. Here we have 3 items. Red line, green line, and blue line should be as well. Or no. Here will be 3 items. Every color. Alright. If we do this, it will be only the red one. There we are. So that is fine. So the next one would be just the let label or label text. So I'm going to save this one here, but this of course is not this. So what we need to do here is, now we do need to go into the I scale. So save that. Go here. And what I want, let's get it in here. Then we go in the I scale. And in the I scale here, what I'm going to look for is the underscore label items. And then in here, which data we want. So let's select one, and then you see here the label. As you can see here, this one has a quite complicated path. So hover over it, and you will see everything. I scale is capital S for the scale. Dot underscore label items, index number, and then dot label. Alright, so let's grab this. So we say here dot I scale dot, and then we say here underscore label items. And here we have the index number. So, well, we can just do the label here, and here we need to put in the number. So what is the number here that we can grab? That is this one here. The index number, the data index. That's the one we prepared in advance. So now, put in there, save that, refresh. There we are. And we get this Thursday. We get here, what is this? Wednesday. There we are. Here we are. Alright. So now we are getting close to completion. We have our text. And what we want to do now is start to work with that text here. What we need to do, of course, is to prepare the text itself. Well, not only we have now all the preparation of the labels, but what we need to know is as well the width of the text, so we can make sure that this will be matching. Especially later on, if I will make one of these bigger, you will see that. And maybe what is the text we want to show. Well, in this case, I think it will be very clever just to show like Wednesday number 9. Just very simple. I will not make it too complicated for now. In the near future, I will have other videos that will be more advanced. So, what we're going to do here is the following. I'm going to say that the constant text will be, well, let's think about it. How will the text will be? Well, if we have like Wednesday colon 9, then what I will need to do here is a backtick. And backticks, we're going to use here object of template literals, which is basically an advanced way of concatenation. If you go to your keyboard, escape, below your escape button, you have the backtick. And then what I'm going to do here is I want to grab the label. So I'm going to copy that. So that will be $ this, alright, comma, oh no, not comma, colon, and then the number. So let's get the number here. There's a $, that, there we are. Once we have that, we have prepared the text. Now we prepared the text. We don't want to show yet the text. What we do want to know is what is the amount of pixels of this text. We need to have this dynamic so that when our tooltip expands based on this, it must make sure that it will cover everything. So what we're going to do here is we say constant text width equal, and then here of course we're going to use another nice canvas feature. ctx dot measure text, and the measuring of the text will be equal to this, whatever we have here. And then we say a dot width. And then what this really does is, oh sorry, let me get to my battery. So as I said, it will measure the text and it will make the width of the tooltip eventually dynamic, so it will always make sure that it will fit the text itself. Alright, so now we have this here. We have prepared text and we have made this dynamic width of text plus text display, I guess. So this is the text display and this is the text width. Alright, so now what we can do here is starting to work on drawing the item itself. So to do this, let's go and look. We're going to create a new function here, and I realize here, you can see before I even continue on, I want to copy this. So here restore, and then I say here function. And this function here, you can call the draw text. And the draw text will be the following. We want to draw the text. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, ctx.font to describe the font item. So we can say equal here, and what I want to do is the string value. Then we say a bolder to make it nice bold, or even bolder than bold, which is font weight 600, 700 plus. And then we say a font size of 12 pixel, and then font family Arial. And of course you can do anything you want. Next, what I want to do here is I want to say here the ctx.fill style, and I want to get the color. So remember we had the color here above, which is the border color. So I'm going to grab this border color, and I want this border color to be displayed in here. I guess the background color will not be necessary for us now, but the border color is, because I want to make the font nice in that color, so we know that every item will represent a certain data set. Alright, so once we have this, I want to say here ctx.fill text, and now what I'm going to say is I'm going to draw the text. So what will be the text here? Well, let's go up here. Remember this text that we prepared in advance? Copy this, put it down here. That will be the first one. So then we'll say, alright, I want this text being written. And next, what I want to do now is, where are we going to put in the x coordinate and the y coordinate? So this one is of course a bit more tricky, but let's start with the basics. I'm going to just get the x point and the y point first. Make sure that this is the y point. Alright. And once I did this, semicolon, and I will say here ctx.restore to restore whatever we would have, or undo everything here afterwards. So if I save this now, of course nothing works yet. Why? We didn't activate the function. So we can do it from this. We don't have to put it in the if statement here. Why? Because we want to draw every one of them based on the loop. The other one, we want to draw only the shape once. So I can just put it here down, draw text. There we are. Save that. Refresh. Hover over it. Now you can see here, alright, it does something. And then here as well, it does something. It does something. But of course here, it's all on top of it. Our position is still not correct. So now let's start to work on our position. The first thing you know probably is I'm going to put a position, because here we have the y point minus 10. So I'm just going to do this exactly the same. And if you do y point minus 10, save that, or sorry, I do minus 19. It will be eventually minus 19, so it doesn't matter. This one here, you can see here we need to go a bit more higher. Alright, but you notice here, it's not really in the center. So why is it not in the center? So let me explain here. We have the item here. Basically, it's text aligned to the left. So you can see here, it starts at the center, but then it goes to the left. Very similar to CSS text align left, center, right. And what we want to do now is text align center. So let's do that one here. We're going to say here ctx.text align, and this text align equals string center. Save that. So once we did this, and we save this, refresh, we are now getting better. However, you can see our text fits almost too perfect in our tooltip, and it's almost a perfect fit. But of course, we don't want this. I can imagine you want some paddings. Well, let's work on that one as well. However, what I want to do first is let's solve the other item here. Now the answer is basically 19, so if I move this to 19, there we are. Alright, so now we're getting closer, and what I want to do here, I'm going to go up, and what I want to do here is in the font or text width, we have this. I'll just say plus 20 pixels. Why 20 pixels? I want to have left and right 10 pixels padding, like that. There we are. That looks a bit more better, is it? Am I correct? Does it show good? Alright, so interesting. Here it doesn't show yet correctly. Let's see if I save this correct. Plus the width plus this. Alright, let's do this again. Alright, fair enough. We're going to check later on what's going on with this. So what I want to do now is the following. We need to move as well the position up. So what is really happening here is once we have this, especially here, we have an issue. All these texts, and that's why you don't see them. You might not even notice them very clearly. So maybe I will just make this white for now. Refresh. Alright. They're all on top of each other. And what I want to do now is I want to push them up. So every item must go up X amount of pixels. Well, in this case, it's just similar to what we did here. Basically with the tooltip. But what I want to do here then is I want to say here the following. I'm going to say here plus. And then I don't want to copy this here. And the reason why I don't want to copy this here, because this one will give us the length. And what that really means, the length would indicate times 1, 2, and 3. And I don't want that because we already have that here. And although we can even do that, I realize we can just do that one. Because why? What I was referring to, because if you have index 0, the first one is already here up. We don't have to push it more higher. But I realize we can remove this. And all we can do then is, instead of this, we can probably just say tooltip that. And then what I'm going to do here is, instead of this, I do minus. I can do this. Multiply and here. So if I save this, let's see if this works. Oh, missing argument list on 135. Here we have the length and this multiplied minus 20. Alright, doesn't work. Fair enough. Alright, I figure out that this is probably not the right things. So what I will do is I will maintain this, what I had in my mind. So we have the index multiplied by 20. And our index, if you're wondering what is the index, well, the index is basically on this here. But this was index 0 first. So first time multiply by minus 20, sorry, negative 20, we will maintain just 0. The second one, because we already have this here. And this was basically what I was referring to. So if I save this now, refresh, this will work. Alright, so that works nicely. And then, what I want to do now is to make sure we have all of this correct. What we need here is the following. We have this one here, white. I can make this one B color. Save that. Refresh. There we are. Although it's quite hard to read here, so maybe you have to reconsider if you should put it in a different color. But that's alright. That's up to you. You can check that. And then what I want to do, because you can see here still, we're still missing the padding here. Alright, so how do we do this? Or why is the padding being missed out? So let's look here at our item. Let's see, we have this minus 19. We have the width here. And that's the X point here. And maybe, no, this is correct. This is the position, our starting position. Alright. So let's see this one here. Alright, so hold on, I will just check quickly. Alright, so I have figured out, of course, right now we just have this hard coded. Remember when we started with this, we had this minus 20. We just put this in here. Almost forgot about this. So what I need to do here is, I don't want to work anymore with this. What I want to do is I want to get the text width, because I need to make this dynamic. So I'm going to say here text width. But what I want to do here is the following. We have the X point, and we still want to be in the center. But we want to be in the center minus going X amount back to the left. So what I mean by that is here, if we are in the center, we want to go here to the left, this, and then that. But it needs to be in the balanced center. So that would mean our text width divided by 2, that will be deducted from this point. And so that will be exactly get off the center. Well, it gives us the center. So what I'm going to do here is a minus. I'm going to say a text width divided by 2. When we did this, we can copy that. And of course, we can do the same here. So there we are. And once we have this, we have all of that here. Let's save that. And then I guess this one here was already hard-coded as well. We need to do this with the text width. Make sure we have the text width here. Because this is the width, and this is how much we have to go to the left. So if I save this now, we refresh, we should have now a nice padding. There you are. There you are. Alright, everything works, except for this here. You might notice this here is a problem. Alright, I'm going to solve that one first, but before I do that, let's experience this if we have Thursday in a more bigger item. So we do Thursday, and we also have Wednesday. Save that, refresh. Wednesday, there you are, there you are, and there you are. So this is basically the way we can do this. And now what I want to do here, basically here we can use some logic. And this is still a tricky one part for me. I will cover that very soon. However, for now, this is the easiest solution. I'm going down here, and then in the options, I'm going to say here layout. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say a padding. And what this really does is the following. It will give us the opportunity to give us a padding on left, right, top, and bottom. And what I want to do here in this case, I only want to figure out the left and the right side to give this a padding. So I'm going to say left, and let's say here 10 pixels padding. Save that, comma, refresh, and let's see if this is suitable. Alright, so this one is a very acceptable item. Now let's do on the other side here. This one here probably needs, instead of 10, maybe 20 or a little bit more, because it's very close to the right side. So I'm going to say comma, right? And let's give this, let's say 20 pixels first. Save that, refresh. You can see there's now more space, and it shows you item, but not fully. So let's make this 30. Save that, refresh. Do that, there you are. Of course, and eventually we should be able to create a tooltip that would understand that when we are on the side, we want to push the tooltip more to the left. And that will be very soon. I will cover that as well. But this is probably a good exercise for now, just to exploring this. Of course, you can do a lot more with this. And what I mean by this, because right now we just use all of these basic code to make just a simple square or rectangle. But if you want to be more creative, I have a whole video series which is basically built specifically for chart.js eventually, is to understand the canvas, because chart.js uses canvas. And if you understand the canvas, here we are starting to work on many different shapes. You can create a whole series of different shapes for your tooltip. So that's absolutely something I would highly recommend you if you're interested in learning how to customize your tooltip in a far more unique way.